Lena's hands trembled as she carried a tray of wine glasses through the glittering restaurant, the kind of place where dreams wore tuxedos and reality wore aprons. She was barely getting by, working double shifts trying to save for nursing school. But that night, fate had another plan. Across the room, a burst of laughter froze her mid-step. It was Ethan, her ex-boyfriend, the man who once promised to marry her, now draped around a woman dressed in diamonds. Their eyes met. He smirked. "Still serving tables, Lena?" The words stabbed deeper than she expected. Before she could turn away, she accidentally bumped into a tall man in a tailored suit. Adrian Cole, the city's youngest self-made millionaire. As the wine splashed, Ethan sneered, "Careful. Lena, you can't afford that man's shirt." Humiliated. Lena whispered desperately, "Act like you love me. Please?" And that single sentence changed her life forever. The restaurant fell into a hush so sharp, Lena could hear her own heartbeat. The clinking of silverware stopped. The whispers froze midair. Every pair of eyes turned toward her, the waitress who had just begged a billionaire to act like he loved her. For a heartbeat, Adrian Cole said nothing. He simply looked at her, not with judgment, not with pity, but with an unreadable calm. The air between them felt heavy, charged with something neither of them expected. Then he stood. His voice was steady, deep, commanding. "Actually," he said, sliding an arm around her trembling shoulders, "she's not my waitress. She's the woman I love." Gasps rippled through the room. Ethan's confident grin shattered. "What, you expect anyone to believe that?" He spat. Adrian's gaze didn't waver. "Believe whatever you like," he replied smoothly. "But don't ever speak to her that way again." Lena couldn't breathe. She felt his hand, warm, protective, rest lightly on her shoulder. For the first time since Ethan left her, someone stood for her, not against her. He guided her to a table, pulled out a chair, and ordered dinner for two as though it were the most natural thing in the world. The staff obeyed instantly. No one dared question him. Ethan, red-faced and speechless, stormed out of the restaurant, dragging his date behind him. As the doors swung shut, Lena sat there in silence, her eyes wet, her heart still racing. She looked up at Adrian, voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you do that?" He smiled faintly, eyes kind. "Because no one deserves to be humiliated for being honest." And in that moment, the pretending didn't feel like pretending anymore. The restaurant had emptied, but the echoes of whispers still lingered in Lena's mind. She sat across from Adrian, her napkin twisted in her hands, her cheeks still burning from the attention. Outside, the city glowed through tall glass windows, lights shimmering like distant dreams. For the first time that night, silence felt safe. She finally found her voice. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly, eyes fixed on the table. "You don't even know me." Adrian leaned back, studying her with calm sincerity. "I know enough," he said gently. "I saw someone who didn't deserve to be treated that way." Lena looked up, surprised. There was no arrogance in his tone, only quiet conviction. He stirred his coffee slowly, his gaze distant for a moment. "People used to laugh at me too," he admitted. "Before the suits, before the money. I was just a kid fixing cars behind a gas station. No one believed I'd ever become more." She blinked, taken aback. "You?" He nodded. "I know what it's like to have someone make you feel small. That's why I couldn't just sit there and watch." Lena swallowed the lump in her throat. The tears she'd been holding back all evening finally escaped. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what to say." Adrian smiled faintly. "You don't owe me anything. Just remember this. Your worth doesn't come from who loves you or who leaves you. It's in who you choose to become." She nodded slowly, his words sinking deep. For the first time in a long while, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. A week had passed since that unforgettable night, yet Lena still replayed it in her mind. Adrian's calm voice, his unwavering eyes, his unexpected kindness. She'd returned to her routine at the diner, but something inside her had shifted. For once, she didn't feel invisible. One afternoon, while clearing a table, her manager called out, "Lena, phone call for you. Says it's important." She wiped her hands and picked up the receiver. "Hello? Lena?" The voice on the other end was calm, familiar. "It's Adrian Cole." Her heart skipped. "Mr. Cole? Did I forget something that night?" He chuckled softly. "No, nothing like that. I wanted to ask you something. I'm starting a new community project." a cafe designed to train and employ women who need a second chance. I need someone to manage it. Lena froze. Manage it? Adrian, I'm just a waitress. You're not just anything, he said firmly. I saw strength in you that night. You stood your ground when life tried to humiliate you. That's leadership. Tears filled her eyes. But I don't know if I can do something like that. You can, he said gently. And I'll help you. I don't believe in giving handouts, I believe in giving chances. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She thought about all the times she'd been told she wasn't enough, and how one person's kindness was now rewriting her story. By morning, she made her choice. She called Adrian back and said with quiet determination, I'll do it. On the other end, she could hear the smile in his voice. Good, let's build something beautiful together. And for the first time, Lena felt the door to her new life swing open. Months passed, and the abandoned corner cafe Adrian had purchased slowly transformed into something magical. Lena poured her heart into every inch of it, painting walls, training new hires, and learning everything from budgeting to customer service. The sign above the door read, Second Chances Cafe, but to her it meant rebirth. Every morning she arrived early, brewing coffee with purpose and laughter. The women she worked with weren't just employees. They were survivors, each with a story like hers. Stories of loss, rejection, and starting over. Together they built more than a cafe. They built hope. One crisp afternoon, as the soft chatter of customers filled the room, the bell above the door rang. Lena looked up and froze. Ethan. He stood there in his tailored suit, glancing around before his eyes landed on her. His confident smirk faltered. Lena's posture was straight, her eyes clear, her presence powerful. Lena, he said softly, disbelief in his tone. You run this place? She smiled gently. Yes, and I love every bit of it. He hesitated, his pride cracking. You look different. I am different, she replied. Then with calm grace she added, Thank you, Ethan, for leaving me. He blinked, confused. Thank me? She nodded. It was the best thing you ever did. It made room for everything I was meant to become. Ethan stood there speechless, watching the woman he once broke now shining brighter than ever. Lena turned away, greeting a customer with a warm smile. No anger, no regret, just peace. Through her quiet strength, she'd already said everything he needed to hear. The day of the grand opening had finally arrived. The cafe was glowing with soft lights, fresh flowers, and the comforting scent of cinnamon coffee drifting through the air. The words Second Chances Cafe, where every story matters, shimmered proudly above the door. Lena stood near the counter, her heart full. She looked around at the women she'd helped train, mothers, survivors, dreamer, each one smiling, laughing, living. The mayor gave a short speech about community and perseverance before handing the microphone to her. Lena's hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. A few months ago, she began, I was serving tables and wondering if I mattered. Then one act of kindness reminded me that worth isn't measured by what you have, but by what you give. The crowd erupted into applause. Adrian stood at the back watching quietly, his eyes filled with pride. After the ceremony, as people mingled and celebrated, Lena found him standing by the window. You didn't have to come, she said, smiling. He returned the smile. I wouldn't have missed it. You did this, Lena. You built all of it. Her eyes shimmered. No, we did. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Adrian shook his head gently. All I did was remind you of who you already were. They stood together in comfortable silence, the sound of laughter filling the air. Outside, the evening sun painted the sky gold, the color of hope. Lena took a deep breath, feeling her heart lighter than it had been in years. Sometimes, she whispered, one selfless act can change a life forever. And as the cafe doors opened to the world, she finally stepped into her own light. Kindness costs nothing, yet it has the power to rebuild shattered hearts, restore lost hope, and rewrite destinies. Because sometimes, one selfless act isn't just compassion, it's the beginning of someone's second chance.